not really having an off season. I think we only had 71 days to get ready for the season. But you got to think, after winning a championship, most of us took time off because, that was a long haul and, a drooling 3 months. And to ramp it back up really quick, I feel like that's why you see, a lot of little injuries that we had, some soft tissue, obviously with AD throughout the year. But I think a longer off season, it'll do us all well. I feel like, especially for me, I haven't had a nice, good off season in 2 years, getting injured. And then obviously last year. So it's going to be well. It's going to do well.
And then, Kuz, you wore a lot of hats, right? These last 2 years. Right now, you obviously have the Dodger hat on. What's the focus this offseason?
For me, I don't care about nothing else but winning. And like you said, I wore, so many hats over the past 2 years, doing whatever the organization and team and Frank wanted me to do. Some nights I would score, some nights that was, play defense, some nights play rebounding. And, whatever it took to win, that's just what I wanted to do. And I had fun doing it. So.
Okay, Kyle Goon, please.
Hey, Kuz, just obviously up and down the roster in this series, just the outside shooting in particular and some other aspects of shooting just didn't really rise. I'm just wondering what you make of that, what factors you feel like really adversely affected your guys' shooting in the series.
I'm not really sure. Obviously I can't speak for everyone, but it was a tough series, particularly for me, shooting the ball after having probably a career year shooting a three this year for me. It's just tough. It's tough to end the season that way after putting in a lot of work and being confident in that. But it's always beauty in the struggle and ugliness and success. So, I'm just really excited to attack this summer and continue to get better. And just unfortunate, maybe we hit a few shots, don't have injuries. We're not having this conversation right now, but that's the name of the game. And that's what life dictated for us. So.
Okay, Dan Wilkie, please.
Hey, Kuz, appreciate all your cooperation this season. I guess to kind of zoom out a little bit just sort of on this year and when you think about everything that you guys had to deal with, how much of the ins and outs did that affect chemistry in this group? The restriction. How much did guys moving in and out, you think, affected the chemistry of this group? It was such a strength for you guys a year ago. Was that a problem this year, you think?
What do you mean by guys moving in and out?
Like injuries, lineup changes, starting lineup changes, unable to kind of find, I guess, a lack of stability is probably the best way I'd put it throughout the season.
It was definitely challenging. I feel like if you look at other teams in the league that didn't have the same type of injuries with us, they were able to play with the same type of lineups and same type of rhythm all year, and it kind of built into something more. If you look at last year's team, we didn't really have injuries. Everybody played in a consistent same role every year, and it built month by month. And then you saw by the playoffs last year in the bubble, everything was just clicking for us, and it was easy. And I feel like this year was a little bit different because obviously we had injuries, COVID protocols, people missing games, missing time, and it just brought challenges to us. But that's not an excuse. It's just what it was.
Did you guys, to follow up real quickly, I know the hope was always like once we get to the playoffs, it'll be okay. When that didn't happen, do you think that was demoralizing? And when more injuries and stuff happened?
I think the big demoralizing thing was obviously, just the injuries. I think when AD got hurt in January or whenever it was, that was a little demoralizing, but, we got through it. And I think we had a 6-2, 7-2 stretch, feeling great about ourselves. moving in the right direction, still number one in the West. And Bron gets hurt. And then, obviously roles change again. You're going through it. We get Bron back, get AD back a little bit, and, getting fresh, getting ready for the playoffs, and hoping for those guys to catch a rhythm. And, AD gets hurt again. And, it was just a buildup of a lot of just different challenging things this year that just plagued us. So.
Okay, Dave McMenamin, please.
Because you've been around as long as anyone, I think, on this team, and you also have some of the most years ahead on their contract. Anyone on this team. So do you feel like you are a stakeholder in this process at all, where things go this summer, and staying in touch with various levels of the organization, from front office to coaching staff to players, as you all figure out where it goes?
Yeah, 100%. Like you said, I've been here the longest. I've been through a bunch of different eras here, a rebuilding stage, but LeBron's first year here and figuring it out and, win championships, and then this year. So, I've seen a lot, been through a lot, wore a lot of different hats and roles during this during my tenure here. And, I'm excited to see what the future brings for us in this offseason. I know, only speaking for myself, I think this year I made incredible strides, becoming a winning player, making the right play, being a real valuable, asset on a defensive end. And, I got a lot of growth in me. And I can't wait to, get there.
Okay, we'll just take a couple more. We're going to go with Brad Turner, please.
At what point during this season were you guys able to separate last season from this season? Did it all merge together and feel like it was two seasons rolled into one?
100% it did. We didn't really have a bunch of time off. Obviously this year kind of felt like, playing two seasons, playing from last season, taking a 2-3 month break off from obviously COVID and the shutdown, and then getting into the bubble for 3 months, and then resting for a month and a half and getting back into it. That's not your typical NBA season of, off-season schedule. So, it definitely felt long, and yeah.
Okay, Rashawn Haylock, please.
Hey, Kyle, you kind of chronicled the whole season with the injuries and whatnot. How tough was it, going through that, considering it seemed like anytime you would clear one hurdle, then another hurdle would present itself, and that just continued happening, up until last night. How difficult was that?
It was difficult, but if you just think about life, you think about your everyday life, you have obstacles all the time. You may have a great month, great year of reporting in journalism, and something happens and you have to figure it out. And that's no different than what we had this year. It just seemed like, we had a breakthrough, everything's going good, and then life hits, and then you got to figure it out and respond. So, I think we did the best we could with everything. It's never about what happens to you. It's about getting up and how you respond. And I think all of us on this roster and staff, is ready to get back up and respond. So.
Okay, and last question, Michael Duarte.
Yeah, Kuz, you said you had plenty of growth in you. What specifically this offseason in your game are you planning on working on, and how difficult is that if you don't necessarily know what your role will be next year on the team?
Well, I think, like I said, and Trudell said a little bit and touched on it. For me, when I first came into the league, I was asked to come here and not come here, but I was drafted here, and the situation allowed me to really spread my wings and become a scorer, and really take on that. And then as people come, LeBron James comes, Anthony Davis, I had to take another role, fit in, and that was to become a team player. That was become a defensive minded player. And This year, I had a little bit of all that, playing a winning style player, role, but then also when those guys are out, understanding and trying to, become a guy that, had a little bit more, into his role. And I think this year has really allowed me to understand where I could be and what kind of player I think I can be in this league. And, I'm just super, super excited for this summer. I think the number one thing that can really help me is, just adding a handle to my game, because, I think that definitely limits me a little bit, because I've shown a great strides this year from a defensive standpoint, making the right play. My playmaking's, been better this year. Had a career year shooting the ball from three. And, I think if I have a handle, it's just going to make everything come together. And that's the number one thing that I'm, really harping on this year.